Malachi, Archbishop of Armagh, died in 1148, and almost 440 years later, reports started to circulate in Rome that Malachi, before his death, had had a vision, and as a result of this vision, had circulated a list of 112 popes, well, some of them anti-popes, but 112 names of who would be the Pope until the end of time. I noticed that in the replies to my last video, one person made reference to these claimed prophecies, while Father Mitchell Rodrigue himself, and my apologies that in my last video I thought he was Father Michael. When I saw M-I-C-H-E-L, I didn't miss the A and I thought it was Michael. My apologies. But Father Mitchell also referred to St Malachi's prophecies as supporting documentation for his own claimed visions. Now the question is, are St Malachi's so-called prophecies genuine or are they fake? Let us look at some of the evidence. The first mention that we are aware of them was in 1587. Their presence was definitely known in 1590, and they were published in 1595 by the Benedictine monk Arnold. The prophecies are in the form of a very brief, very brief 2 to 3 word Latin motto to refer to each individual pope. The first section of the document, that is from the time of the death of Malachi up until the publication of the actual document. Number 1, the mottos clearly apply to each pope. Number 2, the mottos in some way relate to the pope's name, or his birth, or his ministry before he became pope, or to his coat of arms. There are just 1 or 2 mild inaccuracies, and interestingly, those mild inaccuracies occur where around about the year 1590, the information concerning the popes in question was a little bit inaccurate, and those inaccuracies are contained in the so-called prophecies. If there were genuine prophecies from St Malachi, one wouldn't really expect those inaccuracies to be contained in the prophecies in question. After the prophecies were published, they become more and more vague. Rarely do they refer in any conceivable way to the Pope's name, to his place of birth, to his ministry before he became Pope, or to his coat of arms. Let us take a few examples from the first period. The period when they're remarkably accurate, when they seem to refer either to a Pope's name or to his place of birth or to his ministry or to his coat of arms. Pope Celestine II, the little motto given to him in the prophecies is, from a castle of the Tiber. Celestine was actually born on the banks of the Tiber, so it refers to his place of birth. Now the next pope is an interesting one, Lucius II. The motto for him is enemy expelled. Now, it's traditionally been believed that the phrase enemy expelled refers to his surname, Caccianemici. Cacciare means to drive out, nemici means enemies. Thus we get the motto enemy expelled from his very surname. There are only 2 little difficulties with that. Number 1, there are significant question marks as to whether that really was his surname. And number 2, back in the time of Lucius II, those type of surnames wouldn't have been applied in the first place. It would be a later addition. Now another very interesting one is Anastasia IV, whose motto is given as Abbot from Saburo. It was generally accepted at the time this document was published that Anastasius had indeed been an abbot. But later research has shown that he wasn't even a religious, much less an abbot. Here's one that would do justice to Donald Trump. Urban III, his motto, pig in a sieve. However, when you look at his name, Crivelli, literally means a sieve, and the coat of arms includes both a sieve and two pigs. So pig in a sieve is derived from his name and his coat of arms. Number 12 on the list, Gregory VIII. The motto for him is the Sword of Lawrence. Now, before he became Pope, he was the Cardinal of St Lawrence. On his coat of arms there were crossed swords. So again, the Sword of Lawrence, perfect example. Number 17 on the list, Gregory IX. His motto is Bird of Ostia. Now, before he was elected Pope, he was the Cardinal Bishop of Ostia, and his coat of arms has an eagle on it. Hence the motto, Bird of Ostia. Number 20, Sign of Ostia. Again, Alexander IV had been the Cardinal Bishop of Ostia and a member of the Conti Signi family, so the word Sign of Ostia again is totally appropriate. Number 21 on the list, Urban IV, motto Jerusalem of Champagne. Now, he was born in the Champagne region and his title was the Patriarch of Jerusalem. Now, here's another one that would do Donald Trump proud. Snaky man. Gregory X was described as snaky man. But again, once one looks at the details of his coat of arms, that's exactly where it came from. He was a Visconti, and the Visconti coat of arms had a large serpent devouring a male child feet first. So snaky man, the snake on the coat of arms. Innocent V, French preacher. He was French and he belonged to the order of preachers. Number 31 on the list, raised out of the desert, Celestine V. He had been a monk in the desert before being elected Pope. Another one that stands out is number 45, Urban VI. From a pregnant hell. He comes from a place called Inferno, so hence the word hell. And his family name, Prignani, pregnant hell. Another name that sticks out a little bit is Sixtus IV, Minorite fisherman. First of all, he was the son of a fisherman. That covers that part of it. But what about Minorite? There's the interesting detail. Because Minorites were a branch of the Franciscan order. And St Malachi died in 1148, and the Franciscan order was only founded in 1209. He certainly had the gift of prophecy if he was able to describe Sixtus IV as the Minorite fisherman. Now, this sort of very, very clear and accurate detail continues in the mottos right up until around about 1590. In other words, around about the time of their publication. And after they're published, number one, they're not nearly as accurate. It's much harder to see what the allusion is referring to, and it very rarely refers to the person's name, or to his place of birth, or to his ministry before he became Pope, or to his coat of arms. Now that raises another question. If the prophecies were forged, as indeed it would appear they were, why were they forged? And one possibility is that they were forged in an attempt to influence who would be elected Pope. They were published in written form in 1595, but they were already widely known in Rome in 1590. And the year 1590 was a year of two conclaves. And there is a belief that was in an effort to influence the second conclave that these prophecies were forged, and that they were forged before the election of Gregory XIV. Now, the motto given for his papacy was, "Of the antiquity of the city, or from the old city." Now, the interesting detail is this, that there was a second cardinal who had many followers and many people were seeking to get him elected Pope. His name was Cardinal Simoncelli. And guess where he came from? He came from the city of Orvieto. And guess the literal translation of the city of Orvieto? The old city. So the theory is that it was in an effort to get this Cardinal Simoncelli elected Pope that these prophecies were forged with the phrase "from the old city," seeking to create the impression that St Malachi had foretold that Cardinal Simoncelli was to be the next Pope. Now there's one difficulty with that, and that is there is already a reference to these prophecies in the year 1587. And when that became apparent, everybody said that that theory about getting Cardinal Simoncelli elected, that was a false theory. However, there's one little detail that tended to be forgotten. During the reign of Sixtus V, it was a reasonably safe bet that the next Pope was going to be Giovanni Battista Castagna. And what I am suggesting is that whoever forged these prophecies, and I am 100% satisfied they are forged, knew that it was a safe bet that Giovanni Castagna was going to be elected the next Pope. And so they included a motto that would clearly apply to him next on the list. And then the man that were really wanting to get elected Pope listed after that. Giovanni Castagna, who became Pope Urban VII, the motto for him is "from the dew of the sky." And he had been Archbishop in Calabria, where sap called the dew of heaven is gathered from the trees. So again, a very accurate motto for him. But what I'm suggesting is that during the reign of Pope Sixtus V, whoever forged these documents realized that Giovanni Castagna was almost certain to become the next Pope. And it was going to lend credibility altogether to the forgeries if they were circulated before he was elected Pope. And that then, after his time, with people more convinced than ever that these prophecies were correct, there was a great chance they would assist in getting Cardinal Simoncelli elected Pope. And I suspect that he believed that there would be time after Giovanni Castagna was elected Pope, that he would be Pope for a few years, and that there would be plenty of time then to promote the prophecies. Now, as it happened, there wasn't time for anything. Sixtus V died of malaria. And malaria must have been then quite widespread in Rome. And while Giovanni Castagna, who took the name Urban VII, was in perfect health on the day of his election, within a few hours he had got sick, and it appears he got malaria also, and in 12 days he was gone. Now, Pope Urban VII may only have been Pope for 10 days, and he was in bed for 9 of those 10 days, but yet he issued one decree that has had quite a significant impact upon church life right down to the present day. He banned outright the practice of smoking in church and the smoking in church porches. He gave a very clear directive to people. They were either to leave the tobacco behind or they were to leave church behind. In other words, if they persisted in the practice of smoking in church or in the church porches, they were to be excommunicated. So he was ahead of his time. He was the first person, the very first person to ban smoking in a public place. And thank God that even though he was only Pope for 10 days, thank God that tradition has come down faithfully from him to the present day. Meanwhile, with Pope Urban's death after just 12 days, the cardinals found themselves unexpectedly back in conclave. And despite the so-called Malachi prophecies, indicating that the next Pope should be from the old city, which seemed to point to Orvieto, Cardinal Simoncelli still was not elected. And that in fact may give us a good indication of how the St Malachi's prophecies were looked upon in the heart of our church at that particular time. They were disregarded. Incidentally, Cardinal Simoncelli has the distinction of being present for no less than 10 conclaves. There would be another conclave in a couple of years. He was there again. He still wasn't elected. It's possible indeed that the claimed prophecies of St Malachi, instead of helping him, hurt him. Instead of Cardinal Simoncelli from Orvieto, the old city, being elected, instead Niccolò Sfondrati was elected, who took the name Gregory XIV. And those who believe that these prophecies are genuine have had quite a challenge in showing how the phrase from the old city is in any way connected with Gregory XIV. Now, whereas before 1590, it was possible to see exactly how the motto applied to each individual pope, even if sometimes it was based on inaccurate information. After 1590, the motto becomes more and more vague. And while there are about 3 or 4 instances of it appearing to be spot on, in the vast majority of cases, one has to go searching around to see how the motto applies to the Pope in question. And whereas before 1590, the motto very, very often either related to the person's name, to his place of origin, or to his coat of arms. After 1590, it's very, very hard to find any such connections. There is one that has some interest for us here in Ireland, Clement VIII, and the motto given for him was Cross of Romulus. Now, searching around for some possible connection between Clement VIII and Cross of Romulus, there's no connection with his name. Any connection with his coat of arms is very stretched. No connection with his place of birth or where he had been bishop. One of the few things they could come up with was that in some way it related to the war between Ireland and England, between Catholics in Ireland and the Protestants in England. Now, number 78 on the list would again do justice to Donald Trump, Leo XI. The motto for him is Wavy Man. Clearly it's in no way connected to his name. Neither does it in any way correspond to his coat of arms, nor to his place of birth. The only thing that those who claim the prophecies are genuine could point to is that he was only there for a very short period. He passed like a wave. So in that sense, wavy man. But his wasn't the shortest period by any stretch of the imagination. Of the popes listed, that honour fell to Pope Urban VII, that we have previously mentioned, who lasted just 12 days. Take another one, Gregory XV. The motto given for him is In the Trouble of Peace. And those who claim that these prophecies are genuine, the genuine work of St Malachi, have yet to come up with a possible connection between the motto In the Trouble of Peace and Gregory XV. No connection with his name, no connection with his place of birth, no connection with his ministry, no connection with his coat of arms. Another interesting one is Benedict XIV. The motto for him is Country Animal. Again, no connection to his name, no connection to his place of birth, no connection to where he ministered, no connection to his coat of arms. Those who claim the prophecies are genuine, the best that they have able to become up with is that he was like a plodding ox. Another one, Clement XIV, Swift Bear. Again, no connection with his name, no connection with his place of birth, no connection with his place of ministry, and very unlikely that there's any connection with his coat of arms. Yet another one, Pius VII. His motto is Rapacious Eagle. Now again, no connection with his family name, no connection with his place of birth, no connection with his place of ministry, no connection with his coat of arms, and the only thing that those who uphold these prophecies can point to is that while he was Pope, Napoleon was Emperor, and that on his coat of arms there was an eagle. Let us look at the very last of the prophecies. There are a total of 112 in all, representing popes and a few anti-popes. Now, number 111 is Benedict XVI. Now, if he is number 111, and there are only a total of 112 on the list, where does that leave us? Does it not leave us that our present Pope, Pope Francis, is number 112? In the traditional reading of these prophecies, number 112 is Peter the Roman. Now, in what way could Pope Francis be described as Peter the Roman? And that would imply also that Pope Francis is the very last Pope. That creates a little bit of difficulty, doesn't it? However, those who support the prophecies have now come up with a possible answer to that. Because the final paragraph reads, "In the final persecution of the Holy Roman Church, there will sit," full stop, "Peter the Roman, who will pasture his sheep in many tribulations. And when these things are finished, the city of 7 hills will be destroyed, and the dreadful judge will judge his people." Now, after the first part sentence there, where I said full stop, there is in fact a full stop, even though it looks to be in the middle of the sentence. Not merely is there a full stop, but then there seems to be a paragraph break as if the second half of what would appear to be the sentence is a new paragraph. Some are now arguing that these are two separate entries and should be treated separately. Now, if we do treat them separately, then that first part sentence, "In the final persecution of the Holy Roman Church there will sit," full stop. Who does that relate to? Again, I do not believe these prophecies to be genuine, but I'm just looking at every possible argument that's being put forward. And one argument that's being put forward is that that part sentence, "In the final persecution of the church there will sit," full stop, that refers to one or more popes between Pope Benedict and the final pope. Now, as I say, if there was just one pope or two popes or three popes, why not have put in the mottos for them? It would only make sense if the writer of these supposed prophecies wasn't going to have room for all the popes that were to exist between Pope Benedict and the final pope. So that's a bit of good news, isn't it? That even if these prophecies are genuine, which they're not, it would appear that there are so many popes between Pope Benedict and the final pope, Peter the Roman, that whoever was the author of the prophecies just wasn't going to have room to fit them all in. So if that is the interpretation, the good news is, folks, we're not just at the end quite yet. Meanwhile, sincere thanks for watching this video. If you found it helpful, do please give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, put them in underneath and I'll try to answer them. Meanwhile, may God's blessing go out to you. May you know that at this very, very moment, Jesus is right there with you. May His love be poured into your heart, and may you receive the grace of a total surrender to Him, of a total surrender of every worry, of every fear, of every care, of every annoyance, of every frustration. The grace of a total surrender to the Lord Jesus, who loves you, who is with you, who desires to give you strength. And may His blessing go with you in the name of the Father and the Son and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.